All right, let us start it off with this one. Let's just begin. Um, Aim to be you. As many of you most probably already know, there is a concept out there that is called Lifebook. And Lifebook is basically a platform, a framework where you divide your life into 12 different areas. And based on those areas, you ask yourself certain questions upon, um, well, not, let's not reveal those questions just yet. They will come. And the Lifebook has as a goal to actually create a plan of attack, a plan of like this stuff that I want to do. Like, where are you heading towards your life, your career, your love, relationships, your parenting skills, your whatever it is going to be embedded into that platform. So it's actually like writing out a plan, what you want to be in your life. Um, and within my knowledge, within my framework, I've added that into AIM to be you, because the AIM concept is a productivity framework, and in such a way that I'm combining that Lifebook sequence into the AIM concept, with the goal as to be in that fullest version of how you want to present yourself, how you want to be in your life. All right. Just like always, like this is the fourth webinar, a little bit of an introduction about myself. Most of you, yeah, most, not everyone, knows me already. My name is Tim Goertz. So let's do the proper pronunciation for the English-speaking audience. I'm educated as an electrical engineer. I see myself as a visionary. I'm very focused and I am driven with a certain purpose, with a certain value. Um, since like I mentioned, the fourth time now, I'm doing webinars together with Jason. Like Jason is amazing with co-hosting. So if you're interested, I've got no idea how you are in time restraints, but but like Jason is really highly recommended to be as a co-host to actually reflect upon your own being. So that's what I do, like the weekly webinars on focus. So that's the business part of it. AIM, that's the productivity part of it. And I to EQ is the emotional mastery as a result, like the vibrational mastery. It is a deeper layer upon spiritual journey and next level what I perceive to be possible. For a little bit more information about all my knowledge, all the ways that you can connect with me, timgoertz.com. And of course, I create a picture from Mind Valley, so that's always fun. Um, all right, the Lifebook sequence itself. Um, as many of you already know, I'm not someone that like follows the rules and follows the concept of other people, how they have created that. Same goes with Lifebook. Um, I noticed there's something that my coach said to me in this particular realm, and he said, like, imagine it being an onion, and your life consists out of multiple layers upon you as an individual. And in the original Lifebook framework, it started off with health and fitness. Because if you don't have a proper healthy body, then you don't actually have anything. That was the storyline that they mentioned. And while I was going through that, I noticed that the sequence of layers is different comparison to how I perceive that. So based on that, this is my new sequence. I renamed a little bit of them for those who already know the Lifebook framework. And it starts off with my consciousness, my focus, my point of attention. In the original one, this was called the spiritual journey, like the search within. But I chose it now into my consciousness, because everything starts with the consciousness itself. So that's one area. So I do work around that. I write down what I believe around this subject and all of these beautiful things. More upon that later. But this is like the first layer of me. Like the purest version of me is consciousness. Then the second one is my character. How do I want to act upon, like with which rules do I want to live? Like really writing that down and identifying myself. This is the character that I stand for, even though I'm not flawless in those. Um, Third one is my emotional life. So this is like I kind of felt into it. Like if I tune into the layers of what is me, this is the sequence itself. So the third one is emotional layer. So how am I feeling as an individual? And then only the fourth one is health and fitness. Because if you don't have consciousness, then you can be as healthy as you want, but there's nothing really around that one. And only then the intellectual life. Like the intellectual life is so much further away comparison to all of these other five layers. Like we're not our intellect, but we are that observer that has an intellect itself. Like it's a tool that we can master, but we are not that tool itself. All right, and then in the presentation, you see it jumping just a little bit because now the following three are like in that layer of not really the self anymore, the bodily self, but it's going one step further into you as an, well, your surroundings. So your intimate relationship. Intimate. Have I spelled that correctly? Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time that's actually spelled wrong. Bond and a bond. Um, Intimate relationship. In the original Lifebook sequence, they called this the love relationship. And for me, like the love relationship is in a different layer. And for me, the intimate relationship is the first separation from the self to someone else. So with whom can I be the fullest version of myself? And that's such a, so it could be like your best friends or your mother or your daughter, or like it could be so many people. But it's that one most intimate relationship that you have. And then the family, like the bloodlines around yourself, and then the social life. And the social life are the people that you want to spend your time with. Um, Adding upon that one is my finance and the way that I personally perceive that. So for everyone, this is different, by the way. So based on the four questions that will come in the next sheet, we will, you can choose upon what you believe upon this own thing. But I'm just talking what works for me. Like Jason, if you have any questions, something pop up, then feel free.
No, I'll wait until you go through what you've got here, and then we'll jump in.
Okay, really nice. Thank you. Um, yeah, so the financial, my finance, and in my case, the finance means how can I organize my money or my wealth or the materialistic things around me. So it's not that I own materials, but I am the steward of those materials. So I take care of those materials. So that's for me the finance. And that's a way different ball game comparison to like finance, having a budget and having enough income and having like controlling your output, your expenses. So that's a little bit different. And then, so this is also like adding upon layer. Like first the individual, then the people around you, and then the finance, like the materialistic things around you. And then the next thing is how can I add value upon other people's lives with the career? So this could be cleaning toilets. Like I did that, like it's not even a year ago, like half a year ago. Like cleaning toilets. Like that's adding value upon other people's lives. Great. Like that's a career as well, or that's part of the career mindset, for me at least. And then we're going to go into, I see some people are coming in. Hello, hello, hello. Um, and then I go into my quality of life. And the quality of life is what do you see as a normal set of your quality upon life? Like Is it normal that you have a car? Is it normal that you have a sauna in your house? Like, what kind of rules and what kind of boundaries do you set upon your own lifestyle? Like having like a loving, positive life and friends around you. That's also like the quality of life, how you want to experience it. So you can write all of that stuff down there. And then ending it up with the last one. So jumping another one is your life vision. Like, what is it all for? Like, what are you striving towards? And you write it down in that last area. And for me, that kind of connects the my life vision towards my consciousness again. Like it becomes a full circle. And that's such a nice way. Like for me, it really clarified a lot in these last 10 months because I started doing Lifebook in 2024. All right, Jason, let me give you the
The
ropes,
reins, yeah. No,
the
I
reins.
appreciate that. And yeah, so much came up here. I love, first of all, I know that we haven't spoken about this, but we have a similar past. My first job out of high school, which is grade school, here in the States, was cleaning toilets as well. So we've got that behind us, Tim, that we've both cleaned toilets and had that as a job. And yeah, just for that similar background, interesting. I love though the question here, and I think this is valuable for all of us, is just to look at any time that somebody puts out a structure and to question that structure to say, is that the most useful structure for myself? Is that what truly aligns with the way that I see things? So, like you had mentioned, the life book, they've got a different structure from kind of the health and working its way out. And I'm in full alignment with what you've got here is really honing into that your consciousness, kind of that your true self as that first layer and looking at it like an onion. I love the concept of that as well. So as you go out in these layers, hopefully that helps everyone else as well to see this, to kind of visualize this, that core center is really the center of us. And it's that consciousness, and then going to the character, the emotional life, and then the health and fitness, and then the intellectual life, and then going out another layer. And I think that's a really powerful framework, both to question things, to be able to question like, okay, is this structure what works best for me? No, I really align with reordering it. And I love that you did that and draw attention to that because I think that's useful for all of us. Even the people that are seeing this might say, "Ooh, I might change. I might have an order that feels more aligned with me. Maybe I can have that freedom to change that." And I think you as well in sharing this message, in sharing how this is for you, also invite others to make it personal for them. Find out what order best aligns with who they are, and maybe check, try out different orders or put them in different places to see and continue to discover oneself in all of this. I think that's such a powerful component, both the framework that you came up with in the reordered life book, but also that framework of questioning structure. I think that's really
Yes.
important. And I invite you, if you want to talk about that, just make mention of that in your own life. How is questioning structure created impact in your own life, in how you've been able to show up even as the truer side of Tim?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Well, I think like the little bit the starting point was the whole concept of Vishen Lakiani with his rules, the bullshit rules, and in such a way that you're consciously becoming to question like, okay, is this really working or is this for working for me in a certain
Mhm.
way? Because I noticed that everyone is living their own reality, and within that living that own reality, you can question your own limits. And especially if you are working in that level of your own limits, then you're like, ooh, I need to be careful about this one. Let's lean into this one a little bit more. Because it gives you so much freedom because you're seeing the boundaries of your own reality. And that's so much fun. And and we have been trained, but this is partially I want to blame the educational system. Okay, and the law and order. the system as in you need to perform comparison to these rules. Like we've been trained to be submissive. And when someone else gives someone else a framework, then it's like, okay, what do I need to do to follow that framework? Like people want to be that submissive person. Or like that's the default fallback, yeah, way of
Yeah.
thinking. Um, like, do you have a question specifically on this one? Otherwise, I'll continue to the next one.
We do have one question, and I wanted to tie it in as well with your life vision. Somebody mentioned that that might be the foundation for them, and I think here it encompasses everything. Is the way that you were also sharing it? I think it's kind of that outer layer of the onion, if you will, only in the regard to that it encompasses everything, but then it ties directly back to the core. Like it's almost simultaneously both at the core and encompassing everything else. Do you want to mention how you see it any further in your life?
Well, let's imagine that that's the onion, for example. So if like I don't know who said it, but like the overall structure, like the life vision is the most important thing. You could argue it like, okay, great, because that's the biggest one, that's the biggest layer, and that's the biggest overall thing. But for many people, it's so overwhelming. Like, okay, like the three MIQ, like what's your life vision? I don't know. Like it's very difficult to actually comprehend. And with this framework, I kind of like go into those little steps because going further, we will ask some questions, four specific questions on every one of these topics. And then you can clarify a little bit more like what actually is your life vision? Like what are you here for? And that's a great way to identify that for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. You're breaking it down to those bite-sized components that make up the whole. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
correct. And a little bit for like the YouTube tune here as well. Like I'm doing a webinar and like feel free to listen in and let's see how far we can get. All right, the questions, the four questions who are very fun. Um, so the consciousness itself, like what do you believe about the consciousness? What does consciousness mean for you as an individual? Like this is one of the questions that you can ask yourself. Like, what do I believe about this to be true? And many of us here are part of the, let's call that the spiritual communities. Um, and for many people, like the consciousness is part of the spiritual journey, somewhat, somehow. Like for everyone, it's a little bit different. And it's tuning into the belief systems underneath all of this. And the strong part here is, yeah, you can like meditate and think about and experience this because you will have iterations, like you will have new reviews. And part of this is the insight management within AIM, like action, information, and insight management. The insight management is something similar comparison to the belief management. Like, what do you believe is true about reality? And then you can start writing that down. And knowing that is like connected to everything around you. But let's not go into that too philosophical. Um, like the vision. Like, what's your vision about consciousness? Like my vision is like you have a little bit of a subconscious and a little bit of conscious. My vision that I become conscious of every little behavior that I am. That's my vision. That's my goal that I'm striving towards. So every project, every action, every interaction that I force that I choose myself upon in this realm, I have the idea of making my subconscious more conscious. So it's a journey into that my unconscious. So this could be for everyone a little bit different. Like, what do you want? Um, the third one is the purpose. Why do you want the thing that you want? Like it's a very, very difficult one, and I often say within the coaching realms, like never ask a why because it's asking for underlying motivation. But like this is a very philosophical, true version of yourself. Because like, do you notice if you are fully that version of you, do you feel better in that regard? So why is the vision the way it is? Like I know for myself, I feel better if I'm a true version of myself. So that's my why. And then a fun thing that we will go into a little bit deeper upon this particular video here as well, webinar, the strategy. What do I need to do to get it or to create that vision for yourself? Because within the AIM framework, like I really love to do stuff practically, and this is part of that. Jason, are there any questions, comments from now on?
No, no outside questions or comments yet on this. And I just want to ask, are these questions, do you use them for each of the categories or just for the consciousness?
Everyone,
Yeah.
every 12 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it takes you like 12 weeks to at least answer these four questions in every area.
Yeah.
So it's an investment.
It's an investment, but I think it's so powerful. And it's very simplified to a degree that there's four questions that will go very deep. So obviously makes them of high value. But the fact that you can continue to ask those four questions in each area, I think is really important to just comment on that and to realize that, yes, while the process might take some time, just the value that you get out of that. And it's just four questions. We don't have to feel completely overwhelmed that we've got to answer 20 questions for each category, each area of our life. But I love that framework and keeping it to the four questions.
Yeah, really great. Like, and all the kudos to like John and Missy, like
Yeah,
regarding Lifebook, because this is partially like the one added value that I perceive Lifebook is so amazing in is adding the premise, like the belief part. Because there are a lot of life circle, the circle of life. That's also one of them. But as far as I understand, it doesn't include the belief system underneath it and the sequence, maybe even.
yeah.
And that's a very added benefit here. But for the sake of time, let's continue because um, within strategies itself. Last week I did a webinar on action management, like manage your actions and not manage your time. Like it is part of it is which kind of actions do you need to do to create something beautiful? But basically, like strategies include actions, timelines, so like yearly goals, quarterly goals, support, like a social support around you. That could be a strategy, and the environment that you find yourself in. Specifically something called the 12 Sacred Choices. This is also something that Lifebook created. And I want to go a little bit deeper because I feel like that I am using it a little bit differently in comparison to how Lifebook is using it. Because like we can gain from contrast. Like it's often that I don't want to say it complain, but it's like I point out, like I provoke things upon, hey, this really works well, and this little difference is a little bit different how I see it. And then I point out that difference. And that's not a downside comparison to the original framework, but it brings it to light. Like it's really amazing. All right, 12 sacred choices. Basically within the Lifebook framework, they mention 12 sacred choices. Like you need to choose upon 12 certain things to increase the quality of your overall life. So those will benefit all of your areas and all of that stuff. And what happens quite often in these groups is that people list out 12 of them and then they go into an accountability group And within that accountability group, they talk about, yeah, like this week I managed to do 8 of them, like really great. Next week, 10 of them. Next week, oh, it was a week, only 2 of them. And the reframe that I want to build around that is the idea, the goal itself is to manage every one of these 12. And whenever you didn't do one of them, then you're going to go into like research that particular thing. Like I personally, I have some issue with drinking 2 liters of water. Like I find that very, very difficult for me. I see Emily like, um, but like one of my sacred choices that I have is to at least like have my bottle of water here beside me at the desk. So that's a conscious choice that I do to change my environment itself to make it easier for me to do that thing. And that's a little bit different compared to like me putting myself upon I need to drink 2 liters of water because then I feel like that I'm being forced into that one. But now it's like I change my behavior into that behavior that I want to do. So if I'm used to having like that water, like okay, the next step, next sacred choice would be having my water cup filled all of the time. Like now it's empty. So now it requires an extra step before me filling that up before I can actually drink something. That extra step can sometimes withhold you from doing that. Like it sounds so mundane with such a easy topic. Like, Tim, just drink the water. Like, what are you talking about? But you can do this same tactic, like really understand the method underneath it, and to do that for with everything. If you want to write diaries every night, great. But you're not doing that just yet. So, and because you're not doing that just yet, then you're punishing yourself. Quite a lot of people have the tendency to do that. Like they have a goal, but they can't succeed it, so they're punishing themselves as a result. But if that is your goal, like, okay, the first step is it, do you actually have a pen somewhere laying around? Do you actually have a book? Have you actually opened the book? Like if your ch sacred choice becomes open the book, write the date and the time of all of that stuff. Because procrastination is really a big one. And managing those 12 sacred choices will optimize yourself for the overall vision. That's at least my experience a little bit. Any questions so far or comments from your side?
No, no, I think we're good. Yeah, you can continue on.
Okay. Because I feel like, oh no, we're not at the end just yet. This is the last one. Um, so the habits, like I really discussed it a little bit just now, like until integrate, integrate it until it becomes your new reality. So, for example, having that diary beside you, like you are the one that actually opens up the diary, writes down the dates. You're the one that actually has a glass of water. You're the one that has a clean room. You're the one that's always on time in appointments. Like choose something and in such a way that it becomes your new reality. And after it becomes your new reality, then move on to the next step. Um, and like tune into humility. Like you is
Humility.
it
Yep.
humility? Yeah, humility. Um, like tune into like really choose the little things first.
Mm.
Like we often forget the bigger things, and it could be standing up in the desk, like choosing to have your desk raised, or sitting with a straight back instead of like this. If that makes you feel weak or lazy, okay, then this is the choice. It doesn't need to be anything else. Like this is first choice, like sitting up straight. To really build a strong base. That's a little bit the underlying idea. And I really want to end it off with the aim here is actually to be you. Whatever version that you envision yourself to be in the future, in a year, in 5 years, like you as an individual, you are the architect, you are the creator of your own life, lifestyle, surroundings. Aim to be you. Thank
I
you.
love that. I love that, Tim, and I think that is quintessential to what you do share and why you're sharing it, because it is all about expressing yourself. Even you, like we said, there's a common thread of all of the sessions that we've been doing lately is it's really understanding who you are and expressing that, bringing that to the world, and that aim to be you. I think ties that up with a beautiful bow on top of that
Yes.
whole premise. Yeah.
And now in this case, because like aim to be you is a concept with a little bit of software integration beneath that. Like my goal is to hand you guys like a database of action management, for example. Like that's the first step, and then to manage the actions first. And then added upon layer two is information management. Okay, how to manage that? Okay, the AIM framework. So the areas and the questions embedded upon this one. So I really envision that slowly, organically growing into making the quality of your life better.
So powerful. There was a question and comments in regards to the formulation, especially of habits. How important is self-compassion and self-forgiveness and it really, I guess, in becoming the person that we want to? How does that play a role as you're trying to become that person that you want to, or you're trying to express yourself more fully in the world, and you're trying to make the habits and trying to even go lean into the humility. Talk a little bit about how you see self-compassion and self-forgiveness play a role.
Well, like self-forgiveness, for example, it's a very interesting one because we have the tendency, like we have an alter ego that we want to be, like this is the version that we want to be, and we're striving to be that place. And whenever we're not able to do that for whatever reason, then we feel like that we missed our mark, like that we um, missed that ideal version. And then we're punishing ourselves comparison to what we haven't done just yet. And then the true realization here is if you've actually aimed upon something, like you chose your direction, then you can be like it's not even being grateful for the expansion that you did, but it's like leaning into expansion itself because there's no ideal that you need to form to. And like there's not even a thing like self-compassion in a certain way. It's just like expanding from the self, like I really choose to focus upon this one. I want to add benefit like life to my own life and then life to the people that I love in this way. And like it's never done and it will never be completed. So we can always do something extra, something better, something growing. So like really leaning into that expansion level. So I hope that clarifies a little bit the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to see that nuance that you bring to it, right? That if we do have that ideal outcome that we think that's what we need to do or that's going to be better out there, that sets us up for that conflict. But if we realize that it's just continual expansion and it's to a certain degree just as good now as when we continue to expand, we're still going to experience, exactly what we're experiencing and just continue to experience it in different ways. That there's a certain beauty to that realization, and it takes away that need for the self-compassion and self-forgiveness because it's just continuing to grow and expand, not looking that we're going to be more worthy, we're going to be better, we're going to, have some outcome that is different than what we could experience right now.
Yes. Yeah. And it's partially because if you're living in that level of self-compassion or giving yourself that forgiveness, for example, then you are comparison comparison comparing yourself to the future version of yourself. So
Mm.
then you're not living in the present moment. And because it's partially like being so in the here, like how amazing is it that we're alive and thriving and having this technology and having this heat and having this like this experience that we have, like me voicing me. Wow, that's amazing already. Um, and that's something that you can tune into while you are experiencing that level.
Yeah, so powerful. Mm. So can you dig a little deeper into the why and the way that you see that when you had mentioned the purpose and asking the question why, and one of the reasons why other times that you mentioned that the concern about it's really going that layer deeper in coaching conversations, but in regards to this, the importance in really looking at the purpose in cover uncovering that, can you go a little bit deeper into how why plays a role well for determining these different areas, these different categories, when we're looking at it? What's the purpose? What's the why behind, what we're looking at?
Um, like I don't know if this actually like answers your question, but I'm going to try something. Um, what I see happening sometimes with parents and children, for example, like imagine a child like knocks off glass from the table, and the mother then screams like, "Why did you do that?" And for in that situation, like the child already feels like it needs to protect himself. Like, okay, now I need to give a motivation for to um like give the reason for my behavior. And if that person is really tuning into himself in that moment, oh, that's interesting. Why did I actually do that? Maybe to see gravity like fall or to check, hey, this is a glass. Why would that break? And my normal cup, my plastic cup, doesn't break. Like, what's the difference here? Like, and because we feel like that we want to know the reason why from other people, like it's withholding us to tune into you yourself, as in, okay, what makes me do this certain behavior? What am I curious about? So you're killing curiosity with asking the why question sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting because to me, as you, especially that example, as you shared that, for the mom, especially in that tone, and I think we've all heard this, come from others, that there's a way that you can ask the question why, whereas the tone carries such a judgment towards the person that you're asking that question to. Whereas if you're asking out of curiosity, why is totally different. There's a different tonality to it. There's a different experience of, oh, why is that? Like you said, from the child, if they're tuning into themselves and really looking from a place of curiosity, you can still say the same word, why, but one, the tonality, is entirely different and can bring in a separate uh, feelings from you, separate thoughts, everything is different in that experience. And then that curious why can help us go deeper to really look at, oh, that's interesting. What would I do that for? And what was I looking, to gain out of that experience and looking into the
Yes.
why. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think like because the question or like the communication is always in the eyes of the observer.
Hmm.
Um, and like because you also mentioned like we all saw parents asking that to their child or their teachers asking that to the children or their partners or like always everyone has a negative connotation somewhere somehow with that question. I feel like. And the alternative that I really want to like lean into with coaching that example, like, okay, what's beneath that? Like what's the belief that you hold to act like this? Like it's that's way different comparison to the why, especially if it's a very deep philosophical one, then you feel like that you need to um yeah, like prove that you are worthy in a certain way.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's not really proof that you are worthy, but it's um like for example, like if you're asking me right now, like why am I giving this workshop? Like, I feel like that's the best thing. Like I don't know exactly why. Is it because that I want to be known? I don't know. Because I want to like get my message out there? Like, yeah, partially, but there's a deeper desire upon that one as well. And it could be that it's this desire underneath all of this, like, ooh, that's a level of fear. Because I recognize that sometimes for myself. And because I tuned into that one for myself, um, so deeply, I see Emily popping up the question. Uh, um, like sometimes I found that very difficult to admit that that's the truest deeper layer. And um, then we're often, or at least I did that in the past, like you're going to tell storylines that isn't really telling the true story because someone keeps pushing you into the why, and you're like, I'm not telling you my why. Like, back off. I'm not telling. But that's a little bit like that's a little bit the connotation. But basically, overall, like try to ask the why question as less as possible to other people and ask it to yourself as much as you can.
Yeah, and I think it's a powerful connection that the sub question under the why though could be also what's beneath that. Even as we're asking ourselves, maybe even asking ourselves the why brings up an emotion that we remember from the past or a different experience. And it's like, ooh, that hurts too much. But maybe I can ask the question, what's beneath that? Like what's the reason that's taking this level deeper and keep going deeper within ourselves by, showing compassion and curiosity as we're going
Yes.
down those layers, because I think that's hugely important in regards to this whole the structure, the framework here of the life book and what you put together, the reordered structure. So our willingness to continue to go deeper within ourselves bears all of the fruit, and it can be scary, especially like you said, when somebody else is taking us there. There's got to be a lot of trust and a lot of openness, willingness on our part to be taken there, but even sometimes taking ourselves there can be these fears that, oh, maybe I don't want to look at that aspect of myself. Maybe, I would never, consider this, part of me. But as we dig deeper, being humble, as you also mentioned, that leaning into the humility that, oh wait, I am still human. I do have, different emotions that have affected me, and being able to look at those and really be open, compassionate to ourselves, and curious. Like, oh, okay, that could be a component here.
Yeah. 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 That's a big one. I see you laughing. What do you see?
Oh, the comment, yeah, there's a comment in there that's one of the participants. Their why is to because they aim to be themselves, and that really does tie into her authenticity and her brand, and it is simply me. And I think it's a great tie-in that, to a certain degree, I mean, we're all after that, to be authentically ourselves, but the journey there can sometimes be challenging and difficult. And I think that's one of the great values of having people around you that can support you while you both go deep, and they can see outside of, sometimes we get trapped in our own stories. Sometimes even as we go down those layers of asking, well, what's deeper than this, and we get sidetracked, and somebody that's there with us, whether in a group, guiding us in a group, or whether it's a one-on-one coaching, they can help see that and say, oh, do you see, what's happening here? And you're protecting yourself by going along with this story instead of going deep, something like that. So it's a beautiful thing
Yes.
when somebody can also hold that space for you in a totally non-judgmental way, that compassionate, that there's nothing there that you have to be. It's just like, let's
Yes.
explore, let's have fun, maybe even make it fun, at the very least be curious.
Yes. Yeah. Um, like very shortly, like kind of wrapping all of this up. Like, would you be able to fill or to send the form um that we created? like everyone here, like I really want to tune into you guys to fill in the form as well. Like a little bit of feedback from me and Jason, and also like to write down if you want to be informed for the next time. Um, and like feel free, like I'm going to create content out of this one with my webinar, like with my iPhone here as well. I'm going to put that together to make it as valuable and as possible for you as well. And if you're interested in making like a workshop around that for a 3-month period, stuff like that in a group session together with me or someone that I can recognize or like refer to, like let me know because I'm partially the connector of people sometimes. All right. Um, anything that I forgot, Jason?
No, I don't believe so. I think it was a great encapsulation of that that idea aim to be you.
Nice. Anyone from the audience have any questions, comments, like specific insights? Like feel free to write the insights in the forum as well. Um, like in a little bit of a side note, because I am like I'm an electrical engineer and I'm really a data analyst. Like for me, my productivity journey began with action management itself, and then slowly added upon like new layers. And I really felt like the Lifebook is the overarching one that put stuff back together. Like it actually completed the whole circle. So I really highly recommend you guys to think about these 4 questions and the 12 areas, and then to really tune a little bit deeper. Um, so yeah, that's about it. Thank you again, Jason.
My pleasure, my friend. My pleasure.
Yeah, if there are no extra questions, then let's slowly end it off with this one, and then wishing you well. Next week, another topic. Um, next week, that's maybe interesting to talk. Next week, it will be about information management. So how to manage your information, like the data, like the raw data that you have, in such a way that it combines the action management, the Lifebook sequence, a little bit the digital footprint. Like everything is kind of organically together, but the main focus for next week is information management. So if you know someone who benefit from this one or one of the previous videos, feel free to send out the details. And yeah, and I really want to thank you for your presence and your time and everything. Great. Then okay, then we'll end it off, Jason, right?
Yep. It sounds great, everyone. Take care. Have an amazing week.
Great. Have a good one. Bye bye. Great. And now let's end it off slowly with you guys here as well. I hope that this was valuable for you guys. If you're interested in the full version, I'm going to edit the software itself and then place it into timgoertz.com with the purpose to make it available for more people. So if you know someone who might benefit from the webinar like this one, like let me know, and then, or not let me know, like send my details to that person. Have a great one. Bye bye.